Hey listeners, last year was our 15th year of the best in food storytelling. As we head into 2025, we're kicking off a contest in collaboration with the podcast series Feast and Harmony and Sixth Man, where you have the opportunity to win a 4-night cruise for 2 on Chefs Making Waves, a food, wine, and spirits festival at sea. When you donate to HRN, you'll be entered for the chance to win a porthole cabin for 2 on Chefs Making Waves, sailing May 5th through 9th, 2025, from Miami to Cozumel, Mexico on Norwegian Gem. You'll also support another year of great food storytelling with a portion of your donation going toward disaster relief for the food and beverage communities within Western North Carolina and Southern California. This cruise is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for culinary adventurers, featuring top celebrity chefs including Jonathan Waxman, Antonio Lafaso, Robert Irvine, and many, many more. There's a myriad of experiences such as restaurant takeovers, live food and mixology demos, themed parties, and more. To enter your chance to win, please visit heritageradionetwork.org/cruise. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 21 or over to enter. That's heritageradionetwork.org/cruise.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. There's a reason when you think of Wisconsin, you think cheese. Cheese is a huge part of Wisconsin's history and future. In Wisconsin, the state of cheese, the tradition of cheese-making excellence began 180 years ago, before Wisconsin was recognized as a state. Immigrants traveled to settle in this lush green hills of Wisconsin, bringing their cheese-making traditions with them. These storied skills, combined with the freshest milk available, created a cheese-making culture that is uniquely Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 1,200 cheesemakers, many of whom are third and fourth generation, continue to pass on old world traditions while adopting modern innovations in cheese-making craftsmanship. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
Hey everyone, Greg Benson here, and if you're a regular listener of The Speakeasy, you probably know by now that I've been working to bring 100% pure, actually good-tasting agave nectar to the United States for a minute. But I wanted to give you a bit of an update. I actually got to travel to the farm where these amazing plants have been growing for decades, and it was just a genuinely moving experience. I got to see these agave in their natural habitat and see what it means to Rogelio, the farmer, to be able to care for the descendants of the same agave that his grandfather was growing almost a full century ago. That's why I'm proud to announce Quixote Imports, a new venture that's dedicated to preserving these agave and, yes, still bringing in the same fantastic, earthy, lightly fruity agave nectar that's going to make you wonder why you've been wasting your time with the crap at the grocery store. Plus, our fans here at the Speakeasy can get free shipping at checkout with promo code SPEAKEASY, so don't wait. Head on over to quixoteimports.com and see what agave nectar is actually supposed to taste like, and use promo code SPEAKEASY for free shipping. Salud.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
So you don't shun the devil with your rock and roll load. Knows that country music's gonna save your soul. The devil runs his groove in them rhythm and blues that sound. It's gonna get you sun in the air.
Welcome back to The Speakeasy. I'm Damon Bolte.
I'm Sother Teague.
And I'm Greg Benson, and go birds?
I guess so.
Birds.
I don't know. Yeah. This is our first post Super Bowl podcast that we're doing here, and I guess congrats to a real. I gotta say this. I'll say this. I'm a DC sports fan, so on a genetic level, it's really almost impossible for me to be happy for the city of Philadelphia whenever they do well at sports. But I gotta say, I actually spent this past weekend in Philadelphia, got to go to a number of my favorite spots there, got to check out Sampan, Double Knot, Graffiti Bar, Monks, which I think is the best beer bar on planet Earth, and I will happily fight anyone, man, woman, or child, who says otherwise.
And the muscles, right?
And the muscle. Oh my God. Yeah. The muscles. Good God. I mean, I got enough muscles right here. Join our Patreon. You can see what I just did. But yeah, no, it's just an amazing place. And honestly, like, it's cool walking around in a place like that because like I'm not exaggerating here. The morning of the Super Bowl, just walking around on the street, probably 80% of the people that I saw were swagged out. You know,
Philly goes
solid
hard.
80%. Yeah, the vast majority of people wearing some sort of Eagles gear. And it's kind of cool, you know, to see like that level of like civic unity, especially living in such a divisive age. But I have a question that I want to put to you guys, because I think, you know, even people who are kind of casual observers of Philadelphia culture know that they have a street pole climbing
Oh, yeah.
problem whenever their teams do well, and that the city actually sends people out to grease the poles down before
Right.
major sporting events to try and deter this. And I was wondering about this. Do you guys think that there's someone who worked for the city of Philadelphia who got fired from that job for being like too into it? You know what I mean? Like the city got a bunch of 311 calls of like, yeah, there's this guy out here greasing down a pole, and every now and again he just kind of goes like, you know, like this pole's gonna need more grease.
Yeah,
No,
I think
it's the opposite. Actually, I think it would be an Eagles fan who works for the municipality that's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm not greasing these poles.
that's
I'm gonna let people like that's a real fan.
I'm gonna let the Eagles fly high, right?
Just goes rogue. Yeah, maybe sands him down to give people a little more traction. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't understand the not a sports fan, don't understand the reactions to the wins and losses. But I heard that this year not only were they greasing them as usual, which by the way, does that just mean they're just greased all year long? I mean, they don't go back and ungrease them. But also,
I think the fans ungrease them.
Yeah.
I think that's the idea.
but also, I heard that many of them that get toppled all the time were simply removed. They went in and took them out.
That I didn't know.
I've heard about that. So I have a lot of Philly friends out here in California. In fact, one of them is the drummer in my band. But I love, like, when my wife and I kind of took it easy this year. We just like did our own thing during the Super Bowl, kind of chilled out. We didn't really invest too much in it because I kind of had a feeling that they were going to win. But what I usually do is if there's any kind of Philly game going, when it's Sixers or Eagles, or doesn't do whatever. I just like to watch my Philly friends watch the game because they typically they stand up and scream. And then I feel like the cool uncle because I can leave whenever I want, and not have to deal with the responsibility of hanging out with them. Once my eardrums are bleeding, then I can leave my Philly friends behind. Anyway, let's get into this show, man.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Like it wasn't that interesting of a game, first of all, and I think what we're going to talk about is going to redeem that today.
Damon, but I actually had a good segue queued up for once.
Oh,
I was going to be like,
do it.
I was going to be
go.
like, yeah. Okay. What I was going to do is going to be like, yeah, Philly, surprisingly cool town. Speaking of cool towns.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
That was the segue, huh? Cool.
I know that was going to be my Jalen Hurts style segue this time. Really, just a completed pass. Anyway, well, what could have been in a different timeline, but from a cool town that I'm actually really excited to learn more about, because I will admit that I don't really know much of anything, so I'm excited to learn along with the listener today. We have Richie and Kelvin from Hero Bar in Nairobi, Kenya, here to talk to us about what they're doing. So, guys, thank you so much for coming in.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
So I guess let's kick this off. I mean, tell us a little bit about. I want to start small. Like, so let's talk about Hero Bar, and then we can branch out to like the cocktail bar scene in Nairobi. You said you want to talk about kind of like the growing cocktail awareness in Africa as a whole, but let's start with what you guys are doing. Tell us a little bit about Hero Bar, kind of the concept and what you guys are up to these days.
Cool. Yeah. So. Yeah, let me take you on a little adventure to Nairobi, but also
I love it. Let's do it.
I think if we've got any comic book fans, Hero was born out of an idea of trying to create a space where if you were a villain or a hero on your day off, where would you be? What kind of food would you be eating? What kind of drinks would you be drinking? What would the space look and feel like? So It's on the ninth floor of Trademark Hotel, and it looks out onto the whole of Nairobi. We worked with local comics to design our menu, so it's quite a tactile space. So we do a different social issue with every menu run that we do. And the menu looks and feels like a comic book. The space itself, we worked with a graffiti artist who painted all our walls. Slightly, yeah. I suppose it's a Japanese take on art. And yeah, the space is it's an adult playground. It's to tap into the child within all of us. And yeah, we sling some really cool drinks. African inspired drinks. We've actually tried. The food that we serve is Japanese inspired, but we've tried to stay away from becoming a Japanese bar by not having sakes and the rest on our menu. And yeah, so we're trying to celebrate African cocktails, African drinks, and it's a really cool space. It's we really thought about the full 360 when we came up with it.
Talk to me a little bit more about the menu. You mentioned just kind of briefly, and you sped past it, that each menu deals with an issue. What do you mean by that?
So at the back of each menu, we tackle a different social issue of the time. So we opened up in 2019, and then shortly after, obviously, we closed for COVID. So one of the episodes that we did there, or our menu shortly after that, was the heroes, which we came up with these heroes that kind of have a section of each element of the restaurant. So we've got Big Mama, who's our DJ. We've got Chops, who's the guys that do sushi. There's Spice, who does our cocktails. And anyway, the heroes went off and fought COVID, for example. Then we had like a locust invasion up in the north of Kenya. So similarly, the heroes got together, went up north, fought off the locusts. So each time we try and tap into either a global issue or a different social issue that's affecting Kenya.
Cool. And then that's reflected in sort of the style of the drinks or the naming of them, etc.
So the drinks,
was there a grasshopper on the menu when the locusts invaded?
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about some of the difficulties we have with like sourcing of like ingredients for classics, but certainly for the drinks, we've kind of evolved over time as we've grown. We've obviously we started off with quite a simple list, and we've now started becoming a bit more adventurous, and we're getting more and more adventurous each time. So sometimes although we might change quite a number of drinks, there's other drinks that will be the same drink, but then it's evolved over time, and it's just become like it's like a hero in the making. So it's a combination. If that works as an answer.
Yeah, of course.
No, totally. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about kind of, what you were saying about the difficulty of sourcing some of these ingredients. And maybe Kelvin, you can speak to this a little bit because, I was really excited. We asked all of our guests to contribute a cocktail recipe for our regulars. And you all sent over a plantain old fashioned, which just like, there's not a single word of that I don't like. I love plantains. I love old fashions. And it was also, again, it was a learning experience for me because I didn't realize that plantains were such a staple part of, kind of Kenyan cuisine and culture. But does that also mean there's kind of a flip side to that where something that would be very, very easy for us to get in New York City, that is sort of a prerequisite for a lot of classics might be difficult to source? And I'd love to hear some of the creative ways you've been able to find a work around that.
Thank you, Greg. In regards to the question you just asked, in terms of the ingredients we are not able to access in the market, that limit us and even most of the bartenders in our communities in doing proper classics. Like let's say we are too limited into what to get. Let's say in terms of vermouths, we got too limited variations of vermouths. Even the liqueurs, we have too limited variations of liqueurs in the market, and that limits us in what we can do in terms of classics. So we specialize classics based on what we have as a community and what's available in our market, to an extent whereby we kind of twist the classics with to fit our Kenyan available ingredients, but it remains like let's say like a twist of a classic. But it's we basically try to invent new cocktails, ideally based on what we have available in the market. Like now, if in the essence of the citrus, the vermouth, even like now, it's not easy for us to get proper quality of let's say something like sake, or even let's say amaro. We don't have even amaro or even chartreuse. We don't completely have that in our market. So we try and come up with something that can complement the actual ingredient in the classic. However, it's palatable and flavorful and complementable in terms of a cocktail, but it's not the classic. So we tend to play with most of them in twists.
Maybe I
If
can
Yeah,
my
like
question
the
is asked,
Odin's
yeah.
beard is a like a Long Island iced tea kind of vibe, right? You know, like.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
But I
Um,
was going to say that with Africa, like look at your menus, and you've got like the heroes, and then you've got the sidekicks, and
mm,
things like that, and then like the law enforcement, which the law enforcement part of their menu, you guys, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but that's their non-alcoholic stuff, and it's a pretty sizable, like, a lot of times with cocktail menus, if they're going to have a non-alcoholic section, it's usually like, maybe three or four, but there's like, I think like seven or eight or something like that on the menu. But the thing that I found when I was in Africa last time, there was so much gin and so many botanicals there. I was not expecting that, even though I was there to launch a gin
A gin, yeah.
mm.
there. But so with that, it's
I
like,
think
with having like all those botanicals, it's like, have you like got into like making your own like amaro and liqueurs and like things like you said chartreuse, like, which is hard to get right now anyway, but that's fake news anyway. But so they just gave a look. But have you worked on kind of like maybe recreating those kinds of ingredients since you have a hard time getting it?
so.
So,
Can I just respond to the first section of that? I mean, we're
Sure.
just briefly on the mocktail or the non-alcoholic serves. We actually the reason we spend quite a lot of time with it is that we actually there's a huge part of the community within Kenya that doesn't drink alcohol, but obviously they're out with
Sure.
their friends, so it's
Yeah.
just catering to that crowd, but then also doing it in a really fun way, because I mean, sometimes the mocktail is pretty uninventive, so it's each one of
Right.
them. Each one of them do go incredibly well with if you add a splash of your own poison in there. But it was just it was really important to make sure that we were accommodating for all of them. And then I know just before Kelvin does speak on this, I do want to stick with our legalities as well. One of the small suppose frameworks we have a slight problem with is obviously the government. I mean, we technically brewing of alcohol, any alcohol is illicit. So we have to be quite careful with what we are creating on site. So we can certainly do infusions. We can certainly we can get flavor from in other ways, but creating our own spirits or using even a rotovap, for example, there's a bit of it's a bit of a gray area here.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean that's true everywhere. That's true here as well. You know, but the
I,
goal is to
I
get
wanted
away
to
with
tap
as much as we can get
on.
away with.
Yeah.
Yeah, true that.
So, Damon, you asked if there's things we make locally to enhance our cocktail experience, and for that case, like even we make some homemade house vermouths. However, we don't focus on ingredients that are normally in the vermouth. We focus on ingredients that we have locally, so that
Sure.
we can offer something that is palatable to our Kenyan market, because that's our majority consumers in our restaurant. So we try and use what we have, because if we don't have, we don't have. We just
Right.
try and use what we have to come up with something great.
And then just actually,
Absolutely.
Damien, you also touched about I think you must have been down in South Africa with the amount of gins you were talking about.
Yeah.
So South Africa has got phenomenal botanicals. I mean, they've got their own little area for Finbush. Up in Kenya, we have some. I mean, what's quite exciting about working in Kenya, and especially being kind of where Hero is at the moment, where it's kind of at the forefront of cocktails for this market. what's quite exciting is that there's so many untapped herbs, spices, ingredients that that actually no one has really played around with when it comes to cocktails. I mean, we've got over 200 different indigenous vegetables. Obviously, there's a huge amount of them that won't work in a cocktail, but we're slowly starting to now tap into those and seeing what we can do with them. Because I mean, the end goal is to have truly African serves. I mean, it's the classics of absolute foundations and incredibly important. But like you've heard, we're kind of restricted in terms of what's on our back bar, and our back bars are incredibly light in comparison to the rest of the cocktail globe.
Right.
But what's exciting is the amount of like awesome ingredients that we do have. I mean, there's with year-round sunshine, we've got some of the best produce in the world in terms of our pineapples, our pawpaw, our passion fruits, lemons, limes,
Right.
you name it. And then, I mean, then there's even more exciting, which is kind of like a lot of the fun stuff, which we're now starting to really start harnessing, which is like for example, there's a tree bark called mukumbero, and mukumbero, it's like it's like a vanilla ginger.
Tonka bean.
It's like tonka bean.
Close
It's
to
just the
tonka
most
bean.
incredible bark, and that's not available anywhere else in the world.
Mhm.
So that kind of stuff is really exciting for us, and if we can tap in and really lean into that, and really push out, cocktails that now really identify with Kenya, then that's what's really exciting for us.
Yeah.
Kelvin, do you want to add to Mukumbero?
So I know why Richie said that. Mkombero is mostly used in western part of Kenya as an aphrodisiac, and it's
Oh,
very,
yeah.
very,
Cool.
very, very aromatic. And I
Yeah.
believe that's why Richie had to throw that on me.
Listen, there's
Yes.
a phrase that we used to have hanging on the wall at one of my bars that said, "Do what you can with what you have where you are." Right, and I think
Exactly.
that sounds like a good motto for what you're doing over there. And also, I would throw out there that boundaries increase creativity.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
I've said it for not going on 14 years now, that the boundaries that we self-imposed at my bar, we don't use any juices, we don't shake any drinks, everything is brown, bitter, and stirred.
Mm,
And then we're 14 years in and we still haven't run out of creativity, right? So I think
Yeah.
that
That's
you're
awesome.
and then going so not having some of the more quote unquote standard ingredients, I don't think this is a detriment. And obviously you're crushing it. You're on the 50 best bars list. You're about to do a global tour. I don't think that that's a
Yeah, let's
detriment to you.
talk
I think
about
that's
that.
I think you should take that as inspiration, and obviously you are, and just run with it, and don't necessarily try and, as you said, recreate the classics. Try and
Mm,
make new classics from where you're at.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I think
Yes.
it's I mean the rest of not the rest of the world. I think when it comes to Kenyan mixology and also Kenyan cocktail market, I mean we're very much we're in infancy.
Mhm.
When you comparatively to the rest of the world. I would speak for across Africa. I mean, maybe South Africa's got the longest program or the longest time with cocktails. But big business in its infancy, it's an exciting time. And I think what's nice is that the team now, and actually you see it now spreading across Nairobi, is that they're obviously getting their foundational level and getting their heads in the right places in terms of how to build on classics. But then what's really exciting is now they're really starting to get into, like I was saying earlier, like the what's locally available here, and what can we do to create stuff that can stand as Heroes doing on a world stage, and shout these are some Kenyan African cocktails coming our way.
Yeah, I would
Very
think
cool.
I would think that your bigger problem would be the reverse. If you're doing all this touring around and you're going to go to another city in another country, are you going to be able to find the things that are on your menu?
Right.
Well, we have
In
to get you
most
back
of the
here.
times, so that in most of the times, like when we are doing the guest shift, we always offer something that market has never experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's in cocktails, we look for ingredients that are indigenous to Kenya, and we always carry with ourselves. We
Sure.
fly out our ingredients from Kenya to wherever we are going to do a guest shift, so that they can have that experience and that sample of taste of what the African or Kenyan cocktail culture is about.
That's awesome. And let's dig into that a little bit.
Yeah,
Like, I want to
exactly.
hear more about the Hero Bar World Tour that you're doing, because you're really going,
Strong.
everywhere. Like, tell us a little bit about how that's going and some of the places you're going to visit.
Yeah. I mean, maybe actually we could. So actually, we can maybe start with earlier towards the end of last year. We actually were the first African bar to be officially part of the 50 Best program. So we actually did the welcome drinks for that, which was really awesome. And it was nice to represent. I mean, it's a massive continent, but it was really, really nice to be actually recognized by 50 Best to actually do something for the global mixology fraternity. And then this year, for the last couple of years, we've been doing a lot of takeovers. So we've been having a lot of guests here. I mean, Kelvin, do you want to name a couple of a little bit of name dropping?
So the first takeover we had it was with Hiroyasu Kayama from Barb and Fidik in Japan, and we've had a couple. We've had almost like 15 to 20 bartenders. We had Nico De Soto. Last year, by the end of last year, we closed out the year with Handshake Eric Van Beek. That's the second time he visited us. We've had some couple of guest shifts with the Salmon Guru, and the list is endless.
Yeah.
Shingo, and then Shingo's actually been out here twice
and
already.
Shingo Okan as well.
Yeah, but so this year we're really keen to. We've obviously done a lot of hosting, which was really our intention, because we really wanted people to experience Kenya, people to see what we do here. It's obviously, yourselves, taking a drink to New York from Miami bars. Drinks can travel, but maybe the whole 360 is not able to fully experience. So this year, we're going to be. So in July, we're going to be out in Mexico. So we're going to be doing a takeover at Handshake. We're going to be part of 3 other bars. Then hopefully, that's another big issue for us is visas. So hopefully we'll then be going to NOLA, to Tales of the Cocktail, and we're hoping to also do a takeover at Cafe La Trova, because we had Julio and his son earlier in 2024. We were actually meant to go out to Miami last year to visit Cafe La Trova, and to do BCB, but unfortunately visas were denied. So that's actually that's our biggest obstacle to traveling and doing all this. Is Europe so far has been okay, but America's been a little bit tricky. But we're hopeful this year. I think as the guys travel a lot more and they see that the people are going back and forth, it's becoming a little bit easier to get visas. But yeah. And then we're going to be doing a lot of internal travel. So obviously we want to try and get across the West Coast to Accra Bar Show, and to Abidjan Cocktail Week, potentially to Lagos Cocktail Week, down to South Africa for Ajabu Cocktail Festival. And then so we're trying to get around Africa as well, because I think we also need to be building within and building that community across Africa. But so there's quite a lot of travel planned. I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to get visas for the team to get out to all these places. Though, as mentioned, that's the biggest obstacle.
Yeah, it always is.
And if I may add on that, as much as we are doing all these guest shift and takeovers, hosting bartenders in Kenya, it's all like a learning process. It's not like we're just doing it for fun. We are even impacting the entire community as a whole, the entire bartending community.
Sure.
Like whenever we host bartenders from outside Kenya, we do a masterclass for 3 hours in a day with the entire Nairobi communities, whereby almost like 70 bartenders from other bars in Nairobi come for the masterclass so that they can upscale the skills and they can learn, so that we are able to elevate the industry as one, so that it cannot be only like Hero is only on the top. So we believe that if we bring other people with us, it's better than us being on the top by ourselves. And with that, over the few years, the cocktail culture in Kenya has elevated. We've even started getting competitions in regards to what people are doing, but that's what we want, and that's what we want to see and love.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the high tide raises all boats, right?
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
funny. I was talking to someone the other day about like the early days of cocktail bars in New York City. Like in the early 2000s, or like the resurgence of them. Right? And they were like, "Yeah, it's kind of funny, like going to visit New York City when there was only like two cocktail bars, and like,
Exactly.
and now you see it, and it's like totally insane, right? So it's like
Yeah.
you build it out, like what
Yeah,
Sother said, and
I mean,
that's cool
the
though.
Death and
You get
Cobras, the Milk and Honeys of the world.
Right.
right,
We have
exactly,
all their books on our shelves as well here.
sure.
Exactly.
Well, is that kind of the spot that you all are? Because you're the first. Forgive me if I'm getting this factoid incorrect, but the first cocktail lab in East Africa. So, are
Right.
you sort of the milk and honey of your local scene? And how has that kind of impacted what other people in your community are doing?
I mean, those are some big words there. I mean, there's also the big shoes. Um, Look, I think we're we're one of the first to really take the cocktail program really seriously, um, and I think, I mean, we did it. It was really simple. I mean, majority of bars in Kenya used to be, and it wasn't rocket science. It was like we used to have a list of all the beers, all the spirits, all the mixers and wines, all the rest of it, and then at the bottom would be a couple of cocktails. We just got rid of all the drinks and just put cocktails, and then simply people just order cocktails because that's what you're offering. So yes, look, I think we are pioneering, but as Kelvin mentioned, we're really keen not to be seen as we want to be that we want to be the inspiration behind Nairobi becoming a real cocktail destination and a food and wine destination, and somewhere that people come to travel with their taste buds. I think it's been a journey. I think, like as Kelvin's mentioned, this what's been nice is, I mean, obviously, like you just mentioned in New York, if you only have two or three good cocktail bars, then that's all that people will go to. But if you have now, as New York is, I mean, you've got hundreds. So if you've got clientele that are going out to their local and getting fantastic cocktails, to going downtown and getting fantastic cocktails, and if that infrastructure is there and everyone's going out and having good cocktails all the time, then for sure the bartenders become busier, the bartenders become better, the cocktail programs become better, the whole the whole environment changes. So that's what we're really hopeful for, and we are starting to see that change. So yes, I think I would like to see in 10 years time when we look back at Hero and the Hero's story, I'd love to see that as the real fire starter for cocktails in the region.
Well, I mean, you've sort of been at it for 5 years at this point. Like, are you starting to kind of see, are you starting to kind of look around and be like, oh, hey, it's working. Like, like people are kind of paying attention. I mean, obviously you're getting recognized and duly so by the international community, but are you kind of like, walking around and going from, as we were talking about, the era when New York City had two cocktail bars, which is just I don't know that if I closed my eyes and imagine as hard as I could picture that now. But like, are you kind of starting to see that take root, just kind of in your day to day?
Yeah, I think it is starting. It's small steps. What's been fun is actually starting to see people becoming a bit bolder. I mean, it used to be quite classic. You just go into any bar and they'd have a mojito and an old fashioned but they're not necessarily well executed. But now you're actually starting to see the bartenders really thinking about what their back bar and what they can do and what they can't do with it. Sometimes it's a little bit hit and miss, but at least there's the efforts have been made.
Mhm.
I think the change that really needs to happen now is for the consumers to really start opting to pick cocktails straight off the bat.
That was going to be my next question. On the business side,
Yeah.
like how all these efforts that are going in, if you don't have a base of clients that are interested, then it's all for naught. So how, and obviously they're responding well, but how have you seen that change over these few years that you've been there with the consumers' habits?
Yeah.
And how do you feel like you're influencing them?
Sorry, Kelvin. I'm hopping on, but
No,
but I
okay,
think
go for it.
but I
Go for
think
it.
yeah, it's a fantastic question. I think overall the beverage market is we've seen a massive shift. I mean, back in maybe even like as maybe even 10 to 15 years ago, even when it came to wine, it'd be like red and white, sweet and dry. and that you wouldn't even be talking about the different varietals. But then the change there has also been in the cocktails as well. It's like doing alcohol forward cocktails even 5-6 years ago. Yeah, you just you wouldn't even have a market. They used to be they'd be quite tropical, quite they'd be quite sweet forward. So what's been interesting is actually the taste bud change, and that's been the overall taste bud change. So it's been, I think that's down to both restaurants changing and people taste buds generally getting into more umami flavors. So that's been fascinating to watch, and the market now is also becoming more adventurous in what they're drinking and eating. So I think, but again, if you go out to a number of bars, majority of bars around Nairobi, it tends to be, it's a bottle serve place. You get a bottle on the table, you get your mixers. It tends to always be with food, and so yeah, it is changing. We are noticing the change, and there is some. Before, we used to sit in a team and try and think of bars that we'd recommend around the city, like cocktail bars. It was a couple of fingers at most. Now we're actually starting to see the team coming up with 5, 6 bars, 7 bars. So it's starting to change, which is great, and it's awesome to be part of that.
That's a thing that we all have to shoulder. Our job is not just to serve the drinks. Our job is, frankly, to educate, and that education then informs the consumer, and then that informs their decision-making process when they're at your place or when they're at the next place.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And you want them to have great experiences everywhere. Sorry.
If I may add on that, initially when we opened Hero, it was hard for us to convince our clientele to not consume a glass of wine or a bottle of beer and take one cocktail. First of all, was in terms of the price differences. Like a cocktail, let's say a cocktail is $10, and a beer will cost you $3. So they were into the dilemma whereby, can I do a cocktail for $10 or just take the same $10 and 3 beers and I'll get tipsy? So in the beginning, that was kind of a challenge for us, but with time, we focused on educating our guests in something, because it was kind of new in the bar scene. We tried and educate our clientele, and the response, as per now, if you speak, 60% to 70% of our beverage sales at Hero is only cocktails. And even when we launched our previous menu, we reduced the amount of wines and even beers, and hopefully by the end of the year or the next year, when launching the next volume, we'll get rid of all the wines, or just leave one wine by glass or even one beer, and just focus on the craft and the cocktail craft.
Listen, that's a smart strategy. That's how Mori Margo made its name, right? We simply don't offer the things we don't want to offer. That's not to say you're
unapologetic.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's 100% how we've had to do it. I've got a quick anecdote about young Max Green when he worked at the bar. A man came in and ordered a martini from him with an olive, and Max apologized to him and said, "We don't have olives. We serve our martini with a twist." And I pulled him aside. I said, "You can't apologize for that. We never have olives. If you say we don't have olives, he's going to think you're out tonight, and he's going to come back in a week, and he's going to order a martini with olives, and you're going to say, I don't have that. I have a twist." And he's going to come back the third week, and he's going to say that, and he's going to be like, "Why can't you guys stock olives? What the fuck's the matter with you? You're idiots." And I was like, "No, we don't do that. You say that right up front. It's okay that we don't do that, because we're very proud of what we do, right?" So I think that, that's a smart methodology to limit your menu to the things that you're most interested in selling, and then you'll draw the clientele who's most interested in having it.
Thank you.
I think there's more elements there too. It's like, once you start because, you're right on the equator. Like you said, you have sun all year round, you've got these really great ingredients. And it's like, once people start getting hip to those, especially people traveling, internationally, it's like, they're going to be like, oh my God, when we come to visit, I'm going to be packing my suitcase full of stuff that I can't get, in California or New York. It's one thing to use those ingredients, but also even with just the whole atmosphere of what you're doing, and you got local artists. You're probably blasting like Willie Paul and Diana Bahati, or like I don't know, like Kenyan artists, like like it's part of the vibe too. It's like making sure that you've got like the music that goes with it. I'm a musician, so like I think about that stuff too. But like it's like the whole experience, and yeah, we should go visit, guys. I mean,
yeah, man, let's pack it up.
100%, guys. There's bar stools. There's bar stools with the names on there. Please, please,
cool.
please.
Awesome.
Actually, maybe if I can just mention, there's one thing that we and it's I suppose it's advice to any like new market is with our cocktail program. We became quite dramatic with some of our signature serves. Now, did the drama add to the overall flavor? Maybe not, but then it kind of achieved what we wanted, which was the people seeing like, I don't know, the massive big glass cloches with the smoke coming out of it with the cocktail underneath. So doing those dramatic reveals, obviously, I think with cocktail bars today, with food, with restaurants today, having those Instagrammable moments also sells cocktails, sells food, sells drinks, and sells experiences. So we created some of the cocktails to have those reveal moments, those like the artistry. So that also helped with the cocktail program, because you had guys coming in that would be ordering drinks that they wouldn't necessarily order. I mean, like we do,
right.
we have some pretty potent drinks that come on with the cloche. Someone has one of those, and they're like, whoa. So yeah, that's also helped with our cocktail sale.
Yeah, I mean, that's true all over the globe. Social media is definitely a driver of sales, because the influencer, it literally influences people to make a move that maybe they wouldn't have made, right? It influences someone who would definitely love what you do to recognize that you exist, but it also makes that person who's maybe curious come in and say, what the hell was that? I have to try it for myself, right?
Got to try it, like the Mushroom Master Old Fashioned. Like I want that right now. It's almost 10 o'clock here.
Yeah.
I love rum old fashions, and this one's got mushrooms in it. So you've got like two of my favorite things.
Yeah, well, Damon is on the West Coast, you guys. So as we always say when he's on the show, it's 9 a.m. somewhere, baby.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So talk a little bit about the upcoming Kenya Bartender Week, and what's your involvement, if any, with that, and like how do you think that's going to affect the community there?
Yeah, awesome. We're as Kelvin has already mentioned as well, is that we're really keen to trying to be the the spear that drives the change for the cocktail market here. So as part of it, we actually want, with Kenya Bartender Week, we want to now get something official that can mushroom out and become bigger than just Hero. So that's the hope with Kenyan Bartender Week. We're actually aiming to launch it on our 6th birthday, so beginning of September. We're looking to, and we're doing it Kenya wise. We're not just doing Nairobi. We're looking to do it across Kenya, with the hopes that it's whatever's happening in Nairobi starts to spread. So we've already got some awesome bars doing some cool things. Shout out to it's like Funky Monkey down in Diani. There's bars in the Mara in the middle of the bush, which we guys are well famous for, Safari. So we want to try and get as many bars signed up, and the idea is, again, it's tapping into that local ingredients. So it's leaning on, for sure, absolutely they can use spirits from across the world, but it's now what's the ingredient that they're using that's going to be different, and what's the Kenyan ingredient that's going to be in there. So how are they going to be serving it? How are they going to be doing, I don't know, a twist on a classic, but within a Kenyan ingredient? So the idea is to get the bartenders really thinking about making Kenyan cocktails, because we're not able to emulate everything from around the world. So how can we establish that Kenyan cocktail?
I have a question that I probably should have asked earlier in the show, but I just mentioned, being on the equator and like you've got sunshine year round. So is that something that, like whenever you're coming up with a new cocktail, a new menu, is that like helpful to have these things available year round? Or does it make you like, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause like for us, like, especially in like New York, you've got like, sometimes you have all 4 seasons in one day,
Right.
and like, but we think about the seasonal changes for our cocktail menus and what's available, produce wise, what makes sense. Like, if it's warm drinks versus something on crushed ice, is there like, can you speak to the pros and cons of that, the kind of like climate and terroir and availability?
In terms
Yeah.
of, if I may mention, let me just mention something, Richie, before you proceed.
No, please, Kelvin. It's all yours.
In terms of not everything is available year out. So
Okay,
for whatever is available during a certain period of time, we try and find a way of preserving it or incorporating it in cocktails. And the best thing that we do, the most that we do in seasonal fruits, like now we have the plums in season, and they'll be done in the next, maybe by the next end of the 1 month, it will be done. So for such a scenario, we tend to go into the technique of making shrubs.
Mm-hmm.
So whereby we mix the vinegar and sugar and the fruits and we soak it, and that can last us for the next 7 months. And with that, we'll run out promotions, maybe let's say monthly or weekly, until the product is finished. And so such cocktails are kind of seasonal, promotional. They can't be permanent on our menu. We only have anything permanent on our menu of something that we know is available year out. However, we have the rollouts over and over based on what is seasonal. And I believe Richie has some add-ons on that.
Always, man. I can talk
Well-
ingredients for days.
Well, this kind of loops us back around to the lab. Talk a little bit more about what goes on in the lab.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I just touch on one real quick point, just if we
Yeah, of
can
course.
quickly to this other, just with Damien, also the ingredients that Kenya exports is pretty much available year round. So like the pineapples, the passion, and the mangoes, and the rest. But what Kelvin's are talking about now is what we're really quite excited about, is actually getting into, because there is, although it's sunny year round, we do have these little micro seasons. So we have a rainy season, dry season, and short rains, long rains.
gotcha. Okay.
But within that, the indigenous fruits is, and some of those flavors, I mean, they're beautiful, they're fantastic. So that's what what Kelvin's alluding to, and talking about in terms of the shrubs and trying to preserve and like put forward those ingredients. Lemons, limes, pineapples, we can get year round. But yeah,
Sure.
so actually,
Gotcha.
on the lab, we're probably the first lab, certainly in East Africa. I wouldn't be surprised if it was, so it's first lab within East Africa. We started small, simply with sous vide, and now we keep on adding equipment. So we recently got a 6 liter centrifuge. But yeah, anyway, so Kelvin, maybe you can add more on the lab. Apologies.
So if I may add on the lab, we basically focus on elevating the cocktail and the craft itself. So we do fermentations. We have like a homemade kind of fermentation chamber where we do lacto fermentation, we do kombuchas, we do tepaches, and all these we try and play around with them and incorporate them in cocktails. We have a dehydrator whereby we use to dehydrate garnishes. We also make powders out of the dehydrator. We dehydrate like the plantain old fashion. We dehydrate the plantains after we soak them so that they dry, and we blend them. We come up with a dust proper for garnish. We also venture into let's say infusions, whereby we use the sous vide and we vacuum in a vacuum bag. We sous vide. That's like a 1 hour. That's like the fastest way to do an infusion, because the normal infusions maybe take like 12 hours. So with the sous vide, if you want something to use for today, you just put it within an hour at a certain temperature, and it will be infused within the same hour. And also, as Richie
Kelvin, I
said,
think for the caliber listeners on the podcast, I think they're onto what the sous vide and the rest is.
okay.
But
So
it's good. You know what? I think the reason we're excited. I mean, it's like, I think the world over, labs have been existing, and we're excited because we're tapping into stuff that's ingredients that maybe aren't that accessible in the rest of the world. So we're purposely not buying a rotovap for now. Big piece of equipment, expensive. I think we can achieve everything we want to achieve with a sous vide, with a centrifuge, with heat and cold. We can achieve what we want to achieve for now.
Yeah, and again, I think, you don't want to have the entire arsenal if you're not ready for it, and again, limitations generate creativity, but it sounds like you guys are, as you said, sort of tip of the spear in this approach. I was on the opening team at Booker and Dax with Dave Arnold, and, we had every possible tool you can imagine. And, sometimes it becomes overwhelming, and then you have to live by the rule of just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? Suddenly we start doing things that maybe we shouldn't do because we have the opportunity and the tools to do it, and then you end up making more mistakes. So I think slow growth is the model, and I applaud you. I applaud you guys for doing it, and obviously it's working out well for you.
Thank you.
And there's one more point I'd like to add on in regards to our cocktail program. Ice has been quite a challenge for our Kenyan market. Like whenever we go for takeovers, we see crystal clear ice blocks, and we are like, how do we come up with this? So we invested in a project whereby we are making our own ice blocks, and it's these we call them ghost ice. That's like a cooler box. We freeze it with inserts inside with cubed, and we come up with our own clear ice. This also has elevated our guest experience in our
For sure.
Because they're not completely new in our Kenyan market, and it has played a big role in elevating our cocktail experience for our clients, and we aim on doing better and better in the near futures.
Sure. I mean, it's a value add. It's a visual, stunning thing that the home consumer typically even here can't make themselves. So when they see it, it is it adds value to the product that it's in, no matter what, right?
True that.
That's great that you're doing that. I'm stoked for you guys. I'm browsing through your menu. I've seen what kind of drinks look like. They sound inviting and delightful, and I'd love to maybe check out your Instagram and stuff like that and see some photos of the place itself, and then the boys and I should pack up and come over and visit.
Yeah, I was looking at flights while I was looking at your menu, man. Like it was. I'm excited, and I'm excited for you guys. And to Sother's point, where can the listeners, if they want to keep track of all your exploits, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. We're Hero HERO _Nairobi. That's Hero HERO _ Nairobi NAIROBI.
Nice. We should get more of our guests to spell these things out. That was incredibly. That was very professional. It's just
well practiced.
It just ASMR of it just sounded nice. Thank you.
Dude.
Thank you.
So yeah, you can be found there. And then I'm sure you have a website as well. And on the website, are you posting up the tour dates of A, where you're going, and B, who you're hosting when they're coming to see you, so people can plan their travel to come and see you?
Yeah, we will be. Takeover planning this year we're still concluding. So once we have our calendar nailed, then we certainly will be advertising that as well.
Cool.
But I think I don't know, I'm sure, as you guys well know, trying to nail down bartenders for specific dates can sometimes be a little bit of a tricky. So it's a live calendar that updates itself as we go along.
Yeah.
It's like if only I think if listeners to this show knew how much time I spend on Google Calendar just to get this job done, they would be horrified.
Yes.
I think I'm now more terrified of my Google Calendar going down than I am of my own demise. So that's how much you live and die by like trying to pin people down for specific dates.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks to me, I'm just kind of curious, it looks to me like the closest you're coming to anywhere in the US is Mexico City. But, I know visa stuff and all that pending. Could that change possibly?
Or potentially to Tales the Cocktail in NOLA, in New Orleans.
Cool.
So yeah, and
this is all contingent on visa issues. Is that that's it, right?
Exactly. And then we're really hoping to get back to Cafe La Trova in Miami. We're targeting August for that. So fingers crossed we can get our visas sorted and we can get the team out there.
So wait, you're going to come all the way over
Yeah.
in July and then come back again in August? Just bump them together.
I think what actually it's a good point you asked. It's a good point and it's something that I wanted to talk to is that look, I think what's been incredible about having a bit of global success with Hero is the majority of Kenyans they're not able to travel. So I think, and especially entering into hospitality as a bartender or into hospitality in general, the majority of them aren't thinking that they're going to be able to travel unless they go for work. So I think what's been great for our team, and this is why we're trying to do as many outward travels as well, is this is for a lot of times it's the first time the guys go out. So I think we had for example, Masharia, he's a tiny little guy, bartender. But his first trip was to ABC Gemma in Stockholm, and in the middle of winter. So he was like culture shock complete.
Wow.
But I think it's I think and that's it just really excites me because it's and yourselves. I think once you travel, once you see what other people are doing elsewhere in the world, what you can come home and bring back home is, it's next level. Your eyes are opened. So that's why we're trying to get as many. Kelvin takes the limelight. He takes all the travel. So we're trying to slow him down this year, and then hopefully get more of the team out. But yeah, it's a massive big benefit. Is being able to send our teams to some of the best bars in the world around the world. And then
I think
that's to get them back.
I think that's humongous and it's great, and I'm sure your team is quite appreciative. But I would imagine that the bigger impact, frankly, is having people come there, so that they can touch 70 people at a time, as mentioned. That way,
100%,
and spread that knowledge and spread that information.
100%. And actually, to be honest, we were talking about it a little bit, the impact that's Heroes had, but actually the bigger impact has actually been from the takeovers. I think obviously we're not able to travel with our whole team to Handshake in Mexico, but getting like Eric and Rodrigo out to do a takeover or to do a masterclass in Kenya. We had like Julio Cabrera doing original mojito and tasting an actual mojito from like someone from Cuba. That's majority of bartenders like, what the even their recipes were completely off. Everyone was like, what the hell are you putting how that kind of stuff is super awesome. It's like
how many push-ups did Julio do?
Exactly. No, it was Andy was doing all the push-ups actually. his son.
Yeah.
Gotta pass the torch sometime, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I think.
Awesome. Well, guys, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show and chatting with us. I'm excited to, for when, not if, our paths cross at some point. I'm really, really stoked to try some of these drinks and just hang out with you guys some more.
Cheers.
Likewise, guys. Absolute pleasure. Looking forward to pitching up to Barstool next to you guys. And please, there's one with a name on in Kenya. And look forward to hosting you guys. Please let us know. Please, would love to have you over.
I'm definitely going to take you up on that. Again, that's
absolutely.
We will virtually shake on it so we can shake on it for real in the future.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you down at Tails. I'll definitely be there this year. I go every year, and I hope that everything works out with your visa situation and we can have a drink down there.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, hey, that is going to do it for us this week on The Speakeasy. Thank you so much for listening. And if you want to check out many more great programs just like this one, check out heritageradionetwork.org. And if you want more of this particular program, you can always become a regular on our Patreon. Our regulars get all kinds of great stuff. They get bonus episodes. They get video podcasts. So you can see all of the, the visual jokes the chicanery that we engaged in on this particular episode. You get a cocktail recipe from all of our guests, including this week, the plantain old fashioned, and you get a free cocktail kit from our friends at Shaker and Spoon every single month. And be sure to tune in next week when our guest is going to be Shannon Mustafer, the one and only. She's going to be coming on, talking to us a little bit about rum and just kind of giving us a life update, because I feel like every time we talk to her, she's done something new and wild and crazy. So I'm just excited to hear what she's cooking up these days.
Oh, she's making big moves. I think I know what she's going to talk about. I'm excited.
Exactly. I know. I don't know if I can. I don't want to spill her tea for her.
Exactly.
But You just got to tune in and find out, folks.
That's right.
But for now, that's going to do it for us. Till next time, everybody. Cheers.
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 Cheers, guys.
So you don't shun the devil with your rock.
The Speakeasy is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food and drink radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.
I'm admitting here and now I have a crush on another podcaster. It's called The Sporkful, and it's hosted by Dan Pashman, who's also the inventor of the pasta shape cascatelli. Why do I love Dan so much? What is this crush about? He obsesses about food to learn more about people. Dan explores what's so special about a shallot. Should you eat fast food on vacation? Is halal pork impossible? This is a podcast that's not just for foodies. It's actually for eaters. Listen to The Sporkful wherever you get your podcasts. I know you'll be full and satisfied.